everybody, back again. So when I was doing my video on reprogram your mind, I realized when I was talking about tools, I wasn't really thorough enough, and plus that video was getting really long because I was just talking about tools. So I thought I'd break that video down and just do a separate video on tools. So the reason I want to do video on tools is because there's so many tools. The self-help industry is a billion-dollar industry, and there's ongoing research on the same topics, and we come up with new things all the time. So research is something that happens all the time, and tools are coming out all the time. And the reason why there's so many tools is because we are different individuals. So if you remember from Understanding You, which was the first video where we talked about value and belief systems that form habits, and coping strategies and negative self-talk, we are actually individuals that are different from everybody else because we take what we want from our own experiences. So we all need different tools, and these are just a few tools that I've used. So I've used all these tools. These are the ones that I've researched and I've used, and I find that they work. And if they don't work for you, definitely you don't have to take them. But just try some of these out, and you can cater them to however they work for you, or you can do your own research and find tools for yourself, because there's so much knowledge out there. And remember, knowledge are just tools. Tools are just tools in the toolbox until you use them. So same thing with knowledge. You can just have these tools in your toolbox and use them when necessary. So if you know about them, you have awareness. And then awareness creates power, right? Because when you're aware, you're able to make more changes. And when you're able to make more changes, you already have the tool set that you can utilize. Like, you know what to do, and you know how to do it, and you know where to find the tools. So I'll try to make the video as short as possible. I did a run through yesterday, and it was really, really long. So I'll try not to continue talking and make it a little bit shorter. So the first thing I'm going to start with is time. So when you're using tools, you need to invest time in them. So a lot of people don't actually invest time in themselves. Like, they rather watch TV, or they would rather watch videos, or they would rather do other things and invest time in themselves. So when you look up tools, you're actually investing time in yourself. When you do research for yourself, you're actually investing time. So you are your biggest asset. And all those dreams and things that you want to accomplish, your purpose, your why, all those things go back to the time that you give them. So give yourself some time. Take out 20 minutes per day. Like, if you can't spare 20 minutes per day, okay, take out 10 minutes per day. Take out the time that you're using for television and just invest a little bit of time in yourself to utilize your tools, to implement your tools, and to research your tools. So time is the most important tool that I can recommend. So block some time out daily. And I had to do this too. I had to learn to block time out. I would make a goal and then I wouldn't do anything about it. But as Brendon Burchard says, if you don't invest time in something, it doesn't really have a meaning. You're probably not going to do it. You need to put time towards it. So second thing I'm going to talk about is a 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. So Mel Robbins is a motivational speaker. I think she's the most highly paid female motivational speaker out there. And she also has a book called The 5-Second Rule, and she has her own app where she does education. It's called Creative Live. She also has her own YouTube channel. And she does a lot of really, really good things. So what she does is she takes research and she translates it for us. For example, the 5-second rule, it's based on metacognition. All you do is go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you take action. So when you take action, you go ahead and you take steps towards your goal or whatever you want to do. When you take action, you go into the confidence loop, where you see yourself doing something and you build confidence on the confidence, and then it just moves forward. So you create momentum that way. And the second thing I'm going to talk about is mindset. So in the first video, we talked a lot about mindset. So in understanding you, mindset is really important because either you're going to look at something in a fixed way or in a growth way. So this Mindset is a book by Carol Dweck. She is a researcher at a university in United States, and she does a lot of great work. So she is a professor, she's written books. Her book's actually called Mindset, and she talks about how growth-based mindsets and fixed-based mindsets can actually impact your life quite a bit. So how to obtain a growth-based mindset. Remember, it's peaks and valleys. We're different throughout different places in our different spots in our life. We're actually different people. So our mindset is not fixed across. So if you find that your mindset is holding you back at work, find out how you can take on a growth-based mindset. So that would be creating more awareness around it. So check out Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. If you're unable to read it, try to audiobook it, and you can do it while you're doing mundane tasks. Habits. So the reason I write down habits is because habits are going to be negative or positive. Obviously, you want to enhance positive habits and you want to replace negative habits. So take a chance at videos or books. There is Charles Duhigg that's written a book on habits, and it's a really, really good book. So if you check some of my stuff out, you'll see a lot of Charles Duhigg in it. So his book on habits is really good. There's other writers that write about habits and the unconscious mind. So you could also check out Dr. Schwartz. He's written The Unconscious Mind. It's a really, really good book. If you're unable to read it, go audiobook it, or you can also find somebody to summarize it for you, probably on YouTube or on the internet. So check that out. Another thing I really want to emphasize is look into motivational speakers. Motivational speakers are actually people who do the work for us. So what they do is they amalgamate all this information for us and they put it in a neat package. They've probably read millions and millions, like thousands and thousands of articles. They do the research, they talk to these researchers, they get the information and they translate it for us. So they translate it into tools for us. For example, the 5-second rule. Or if you get a chance to check out Brendon Burchard. Totally love Brendon Burchard. So if you see my previous video, I always talk about him, and kind of my format is kind of stolen from him. Brendon Burchard is the most highly paid high performance coach in the world. He also is an educator. He has something called the Experts Academy, and they do lots of videos. He has a YouTube channel. He has 4 books, I think 4 books, yes, he has. I've read one and I'm getting through the second one. So I highly recommend motivational speakers. Oprah is also a motivational speaker. There's Mind Valley, there's Jim Quick. These individuals do a lot of work for us, and we often think that they're just individuals saying stuff. No, they're not just individuals saying stuff. If you read their material and you go back to science, they've actually done their research. So Dr. Wayne Dyer, check them out. There's a lot of people on YouTube. Check out TED Talks. TED Talks has really, really good stuff. I highly recommend motivational speakers, and they can give you a lot of good tips and they can tell you where their research comes from. So if you don't believe them, you definitely do believe science, and that's where they get their material from. So thank you very much, motivational speakers. Gratitude statements. So gratitude statements are really, really important. So my suggestion is to do gratitude statements every day. So I do gratitude statements every day, but when I first began, I actually had a lot of trouble with gratitude statements. I know it sounds really weird, I didn't really know what to be grateful for. I didn't know how to say it, I didn't know how to put it together. So maybe a tip is to Google gratitude statements and see what they look like. And also start noticing the things around you. For example, we live in a really safe part of the world. I live in Canada, and I'm relatively safe. I don't have to fear. I'm not in a war-torn country. I don't have to fear for my life every day. I have clean water. I have good food. I have access to so much knowledge through internet, books, libraries, and we have central heating, other types of infrastructure. We have garbage pickup, which is a part of infrastructure, but we have so much stuff that we can be grateful for in this part of the world. So if you're having trouble thinking about things in your life, think about the things around you. And I also feel gratitude statements keep you mindful. So mindfulness is something that started about 10 or 15 years ago. The buzz kind of started then. Also gratitude statements. So there was a study done on gratitude. It was called the happiness study, I believe, and it was a 41-day study where researchers actually hooked people up to fMRIs, which were kind of new at that time, and they checked people's brain and see what the activity was, see how their neural connections were, and they had them start saying gratitude statements and being more mindful. And what happened throughout that process is people started to change. Their physiological mind started to change. So the neural connections increased, and in their limbic system and amygdala, where your emotion center is, it actually started to expand. It started to fill up with endorphins, versus in people who were not a part of the study. They also checked another test group. They didn't show those results. And the people that actually did the gratitude statements, they reported impacts, like positive impacts in their life, and they reported ripple effects, and they said that they actually felt happier. They felt more grateful. They felt more vibrancy for life. So mindfulness is another thing that a lot of people don't really understand. So when somebody said, oh, I remember when I was in school, they said, okay, be more mindful. And I was like, okay, what is this? So we asked the teacher, and the teacher really didn't know how to explain it. So I said, we asked all our professors, okay, mindfulness continues to come up in our research, it continues to come up in our articles, and this is a new thing, so how do we be more mindful? So there's a lot more research about being more mindful. I feel gratitude statements actually make you more mindful, because all mindfulness is living consciously. It's being in that moment. It's not living in the past. It's living in now. So when you're more mindful, you're more capable of making decisions, you're more capable of being there in that moment and enjoying that moment. So gratitude statements, what they do for me is they make me more mindful. So when I started writing gratitude statements, I didn't know what to write. So I said, you know what, at the end of the day, I have to do my gratitude statement. So I need to kind of notice things in the day. I need to notice what's going on. So I started actively just being more conscious throughout the day. And I realized that I was being mindful. I was actually living through those moments. And when I was being grateful at those moments, trying to figure out what I need to be grateful for, I was actually being more mindful in that moment, because I was living in that moment, so I could see the gratitude in that moment. So try to combine these two in the beginning, and you can always bridge out, do some more research about it. There's lots of YouTube videos about that stuff. And at the end, maybe I'll give you another example of mindfulness. So rules. So one of the things that I do for myself is I set myself rules. So these are rules, for example, I'm only allowed to watch TV when I exercise. So I end up exercising longer. So that's the only time I'm allowed to watch TV, or like when I do a planned break. So also another thing is to reward yourself. So in your rules, plan out times when you're going to reward yourself. So research is showing us that if you have a long-term goal, but you don't feel the short-term benefits of it, your follow-through of that goal is actually going to decrease a lot if you don't have any milestones and if you're unable to celebrate those milestones. So plan out plan out stuff for yourself where you're rewarding yourself, and plan out rules for yourself that kind of seem like rewards. Like, so for example, another thing that I do is I love research. It energizes me. So you can tell when I talk about this stuff, I love it. So when I do mundane tasks at home, like when I'm cooking or I'm cleaning, I put on motivational speakers. I do audiobooks, and I make sure that I am filling my mind with good stuff. So that's one of my rules for myself. Also, you know, when it's birthdays, I kind of cheat on my diet. Like or a weekly I cheat on my diet, or sometimes I cheat a lot on my diet, but that's okay. So set up rules for yourself. See what works for you. You kind of have to test it out. Remember, it's peaks and valleys. You're a different person in different experiences in your life. So see what works for you. Check it out, write it down, change it if you need to. Another thing is deep breathing. So research is showing us that we're actually kind of deoxygenized, right? So we don't have enough oxygen. Sorry, I made up deoxygenized. I don't even think it's a word. But anyways, so oxygen, we actually don't have enough of it sometimes. We're actually kind of just like shallow breathing. We feel really tired. So when you do deep breathing through the day, the research is showing that you're actually losing weight when you do deep breathing, especially when you exercise. Deep breathing is really important, or breathing right is really important. So do some research on that and try to be more mindful throughout the day to just breathe. Click it on your phone. So Brendan Bouchard says, give yourself a cue, give yourself a trigger to start behaving in a certain way. So every hour, set your phone and just remind yourself to take a few deep breaths, and get up and stretch and take deep breaths while you're stretching. And if you have a sitting job, just take deep breaths throughout. After a while, it'll become a habit and it'll become unconscious. So speakers will actually call community tribe. A community is really, really important. The reason why you say a community is important is research is showing that when you do a task by yourself, you don't really have a lot of reward. But if you have people, like-minded people that are following you, that are helping you through, that are motivating you, then you're more likely to follow through with your task. And you're more likely to get more ideas, you're more likely to bounce back off of each other. And there's a positive energy that you absorb from each other, because quantum physics research is actually showing us that we all vibrate at a certain level. I know a lot of people find that really hard to absorb, but if you look into quantum physics talks a lot about energy and how it bounces off of each other, positive vibrations, negative vibrations, the words we say. So if you're around a lot of negative people, try to accumulate a positive community around you. And this could be counselors. So again, counseling is written with 2 L's in Canada, so I do know how to spell, but sometimes I get a lot of spelling wrong. Spell check has ruined my life, but that's aside the point. So counselors. So I had a friend who told me that when I talk to people about things that have happened in my life or trauma that's happened in my life, a lot of people start competing with me. They start telling me about their trauma. They don't actively listen anymore, and I feel like it becomes a trauma competition. And I said, you know what? Just because your friends are your friends doesn't mean that they have all the skills necessary to be a good listener, right? So if you have some trauma that you need to discuss and you feel like your community's not standing up to what you need it to stand up to, and remember, tell your community what you need from them. But if they're not meeting that need, talk to a counselor. Because there's some trauma in our lives that other people can't help us with. And counselors are just really good motivational speakers. They've gone to school for 8, 9, 10, 12 years to research tools. So what they do is they custom tools to you. They test the tools out with you. They teach you how to do what you need to do for yourself, and they test and try things with you. So counselors can be very beneficial. And if somebody is stigmatizing you to go to seek counseling, a lot of times they have their own baggage, and society has its own stigmas based on religion, based on that patriarchal society where you're supposed to be self-sufficient. Especially in this part of the world, we think that we can do everything by ourselves. We definitely can do a lot of things by ourselves, but we still need a community. We still need somebody with us, and sometimes we need counselors. So they're a significant part of our society. Please go seek help if you definitely need to. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is positive affirmations. So positive affirmations are really important. So if you watched the last video on replacing your habits, I apologize. positive affirmations actually combat that negative self-talk. So who best to combat you than you? So if you have a positive affirmation, you're going to combat negative self-talk. So positive self-talk versus negative self-talk. So positive affirmations, a lot of people don't actually do them correctly. Unfortunately, I didn't do them correctly either, and I wasn't really seeing good impact from them. But when I started doing them correctly, I realized there's more impact. So when you have negative self-talk, you cater it to yourself. You cater it to your experiences, and it has impacts in your life because it's catered to your experiences. So just like a positive affirmation, cater it to your experiences, cater it to your negative self-talk. So make it opposite of your negative self-talk. But don't just make it, I am good, I am smart, I am capable, I am divine. Those statements may have an impact. They might make you feel better for the short term, but they can't really combat that negative self-talk, because it's like saying that value system all over again. It's like somebody ought to do something about that, or thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not do something. No, you need to create a belief system around it. So I am, and take action in it. So add emotion, add action. Emotion is what you remember, because you attach to emotion. So we don't remember what people say, but we always remember what they make us feel like. And this is something that I learned from Jim Quick, and he is so right. Simon Sinek says the same thing. We remember what people make us feel like. So do a positive affirmation with emotion attached. So I'm lovingly taking steps to be myself. I'm daringly doing this video so I can get myself out there. So those are positive affirmations that you can tell yourself. And this is something that you're taking action. So I used action, I used emotion. So those are really important. Another thing is visualization. So research is actually showing us that visualizing is very important. 30% of learning is visualizing, and we do it unconsciously. So a lot of times, one really good example is when you're reading, sometimes you'll remember the page that the fact was on, or you'll remember the place where you met somebody, but you won't remember their name, you won't remember the fact that you need to remember. So when you're visualizing, it's because you're seeing that book, you're seeing that page number, you're visualizing that place. You can see the face of the person, but you can't remember what they said because there was no feeling attached to it. So when you visualize, add feeling to it. So Rhonda Byrne actually talks a lot about visualizing in The Secret. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, book that was written, I think, about 60 years ago. Dale Carnegie, who wrote his book over 70 years ago, actually talks about visualizing what you want. So research shows us if we don't think that we can get there, if we don't see ourselves doing it in the future, we're less likely to obtain that goal. So definitely look into visualizing. All you do is close your eyes for 1 or 2 minutes per day and just visualize what you want. See yourself doing it. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Like, I had to actually look at myself in the mirror and figure out what my features were, so I can imagine myself doing what I wanted to do, partaking in my goals, seeing them happen as I want them to happen. And as you visualize, as you get better at it, you kind of even can break your steps down. So visualizing is very important. Do some research on visualizing. And another thing is, try to visualize before you go to sleep at night. Research is actually showing that if you visualize before you go to sleep at night, you can actually dream it through. So another thing is, don't go to sleep angry at night. There's actually a lot of research around that. I think the Gottman Institute always talks about, John Gottman, I apologize, from the Gottman Institute actually talks about it. So he's a marriage counselor, researcher, PhD, and he talks about the 4 horsemen of marriage, and he actually discusses this a lot. Don't go to sleep angry, and he's right. If you go to sleep angry, what your unconscious mind does, it ruminates over it. It goes over it, over it. And then you kind of wake up feeling unhappy if your mind didn't work through it. So try to go to sleep with resolved issues. And if you're unable to resolve those issues, tell yourself that you are going to resolve your issues. Use your positive affirmations, use your visualizing, and try to go to sleep a little bit more content. And you'll find that your dreams will be a little bit more contentful and they'll be a little bit more happier. So another thing is research. Research and reading, I constantly say it. So another thing is with rules, if you're unable to find time for reading and research, like the whole thing is finding time. So try to take some time to read and do some research. Remember, you can do audiobooks, you can look up authors that summarize books. So there's Joseph Rodriguez, there's Clark Danger, there's several other individuals who take the time and summarize things for us, like motivational speakers. Take the time to do your own research. Again, when you're hearing something from somebody else's view and it's summarized, like for example, I'm summarizing a lot of stuff, you might not take from it what you need. Sometimes you kind of need to read something for yourself, or need to read several authors that say the same thing to come to your own conclusion. So remember, you have your own standard in life. You have your own definition for everything in your life. And although society might have a definition for it, different individuals have a definition for it, you will always come up with your own definition that's slightly different, that caters to your own experiences. So do your own research, do your own reading, and if you're unable to do that, or you find it really expensive like audiobooks, or you don't have the internet, access your local library. Journaling. So journaling is actually really important. Research is showing us that when we do journaling, we actually accumulate positive vibrations in our life, because we're actually doing our own mini counseling. So at the end of the day, we're actually taking inventory of what happened, or at the beginning of the day, we're deciding what we need to do. So we're kind of goal setting for the day when we say, okay, this is kind of what I want from the day. This is what happened yesterday. Did I feel like I had a good outcome? And you're talking about feelings and thoughts and all the things that you think that are important. So that's why journaling is really important. So a lot of people, one of my friends was actually, we were talking about journaling, and when she started talking about her journaling, it looked a lot like an action plan, like her goal setting for the day. And I'm like, you're not supposed to really do goal setting. Like it's you could do goal setting within your journal, but it's not supposed to be like an action plan. It's supposed to be about your thoughts and your feelings and the outcomes and the way things happen. Did the consequence turn out the way you wanted? Did you learn something from it? Did you get what you want from it? Do you feel grateful about something? Did something significant or insignificant happen that affected you? So these are what journals are about. So what I recommend is keeping one notebook. Like you could get those coiled notebooks, and maybe from the dollar store, get a really cheap one. But I don't suggest doing loose leaf papers in a binder, but if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. And try to write it down. It only takes like 2 or 3 minutes. You only have to spend 5 minutes per day, and it'll have an impact, because what's going to happen is you can develop a pattern over time. So if you write a journal for about 10 to 12 days, and you don't know what your triggers are, you don't know what your cues are, and you're still trying to figure those things out, like you don't know what makes you upset, you don't know what situation you get all riled up in, and you can actually start seeing patterns in your journal. So depending on what kind of journal you keep, like people keep food journals to see patterns, that's why you can keep regular journals too, to see patterns. And over time, you can actually see skill levels building up as you apply tools. So it's a good measure for what's going on in your life. So another thing is exercising and being active. Exercising and being active actually changes your brain physiologically, and it actually builds more endorphins in your body. So a lot of people think that exercising is just to make you look good. No, it's actually just a result of working out is looking good. And feeling good is a result. But your body, what it actually has the benefit is that you feel good, like your body is releasing the right endorphins. So eating healthy and activity, like if you're walking throughout the day and you have a really active job, a lot of time you're getting the right amount of exercise, but you're just not noticing that you're getting the right amount of exercise. So there was a study done, I think it was at Cambridge, but I'm not completely sure. But there's a journal that I read about actually people who actually believe that they weren't working out enough, and they felt really sluggish, they felt really tired, but they actually had very active jobs. and they were constantly punishing themselves by saying that they don't get enough activity. So what researchers did is they brought them in, they kind of like educated them on the amount of exercise they get, and they said, well, you know what, you're getting enough exercise. And they had another test group where they said, well, you guys are not getting enough exercise, you maybe need to add more exercise into your thing, so into your daily routine. And so when they brought back both test groups, the people that realized that they were doing exercise throughout the day by being active at their jobs, because their jobs required more activity, they actually showed significant results. Like, they had more toned bodies, they felt more positive about themselves, they had less health impacts. So people that had issues with diabetes, they had other significant health issues, they actually showed a reduction in those health issues. They reported less issues. But the test group that thought that they weren't getting enough exercise, they actually remained stagnant, and they were actually more upset with themselves because they didn't take on exercising, and they didn't take on a new routine and develop that exercising. So definitely exercising and eating healthy is very important. I don't want to really talk about eating healthy too much because everybody knows it. I don't have to preach to the choir. We live in an age of vast knowledge. There's so many diets out there, and the reason why there's so many diets, so many books out there, so much information about nutrition is because every diet works differently for everybody. So find your diet, see what works for you. The only thing I am going to say about eating healthy is decrease your sugar. Sugar is one of the worst things that you can do to your body. There's massive studies on sugar and how it impacts your body. So decrease the amount of sugar that you have per day. Meditation is the next thing I want to talk about. Meditation is actually really good for your body, but a lot of people have misconceptions around meditation. They think that they have to go in and have a clear mind, and they have to sit cross-legged with their hands like this. No, that's actually not true. You meditate in order to develop a clear mind. So research is telling us a lot of people think that they have to have the clear mind, they have to focus on the chakra. No, you get to focusing on the chakra. It's something that you build over time. So a lot of problems that we have these days is focus. Everybody wants you. Everybody wants you. Your cell phone wants you. There's notifications on your cell phone. The YouTube wants you. YouTube wants you. Like, your television wants you. There's a show here. You can watch something on the go. There's internet everywhere. And everybody wants your focus. So what's happening is we're actually bombarded all the time. So meditation is a way to kind of release that and get back focus. So we end up losing a lot of focus throughout the day, and meditation, 1 minute per day, like start out with 1 minute, 30 seconds, where you just kind of breathe and you focus on your breath, and you do not have to have a clear mind. There's actually research studies on procrastination.ca, which I'll get to in a second, that talk about misconceptions around meditation. So all you have to do is try. Just breathe, focus on your breath. Brendan Burchard talks about the release method that I learned from him. Is all you're doing is releasing. You just say release. You breathe in, breathe out, and you release. So the thoughts are flowing through your mind, and you release. And over time, what will happen is you will clear your mind. You will retain more focus, but you just got to keep at it. So keep on doing it. That's one of the biggest things, is just continue. Remember the confidence loop. Confidence loop. Another thing is goal setting. So I've talked a lot about goal setting already, so I'm not going to go over it significantly, but use SMART tools. So SMART is an acronym for goal setting. Look it up for yourself. I'm not going to break it down because we could do an entire video on just SMART, but I don't really need to do that video because there's so many videos out there about SMART goal setting, and it works. So if studies are showing, if you have a goal and you just say, well, I have a goal, and you don't write it down, and you don't put time to it, and you don't make it realistic, you're probably not going to achieve it. So try to break your big goals down, like your massive purpose that you have in life. Break it down into small goals. Break it down to what you can do today. And research is showing us that you should do something towards your goal every day. because it keeps you in line with your purpose. It keeps you in line with being mindful, living in that moment, achieving what you want to achieve. So you're not just kind of sitting in your mind thinking about what you want to do, you're actually doing something about it. And confidence loop. So next thing is accountability partners. So accountability partners can actually be really, really important. So this kind of goes back to your community and counseling. So accountability partners kind of keep you accountable. They check up on you, you can talk to them about what's going on, and they can be professionals that you pay. So people like counselors can be accountability partners too. People that help you exercise can be accountability partners as well. Or you can have just a friend keeping you accountable about what's going on. So another thing that research is showing is that accountability partners can be very, very good. They can be your community, but if they're really hard on you, you're less likely to go through with the task, and you're going to have ill feelings towards your accountability partners. So choose people that you can trust, choose people that actually keep you accountable in a good way, and don't punish you when you're not able to be accountable. Because remember, all delay is not procrastination. So when you actually have real delays in your life, they have to realize that, okay, you weren't able to live up to that task, or you weren't able to do your goal. That's okay. Like, just get back on the horse the next day. It's fine. So find somebody that you can trust. And also, if you have somebody that's your accountability partner, tell them how you want to be treated. Remember, nobody can read our mind. Nobody knows what we want. We kind of have to tell them what we want sometimes. So tell your accountability partner what you want. Next thing is, the reason I wrote down procrastination.ca is because a lot of my research actually comes from procrastination.ca. So it's a website by Dr. Timothy Cycle and his team. So he's a professor at Carleton University in Canada, and they do research on procrastination. He's been studying procrastination for 20 years now. He's actually one of my personal heroes. And he breaks down procrastination into its finest details. So he interviews people, he has podcasts, he does blogs, and they actually have their own articles online. So their research is online, so you can really check out what's going on there. And they've actually mastered this topic. So they don't just talk about procrastination, they talk about personality, they talk about internal foci, they talk about tools like meditation, exercising, journaling. They talk about visualizing, and they talk about how we escape and how we avoid, and so on, and how this affects. So it's really mastery. So if you've ever read the book called Mastery, you know that a topic is never by itself. And remember, we're never by ourselves. We ripple across, like our behavior has ripple effects, and other things have ripple effects too. So everything is kind of connected, like the butterfly effect. But what they do is they learn everything that causes procrastination, everything that affects procrastination, and how it impacts you and how you impact others. So great tool. Check out procrastination.ca if you get a chance. Back to counseling. Next thing I'm going to talk about is counseling. You can probably get free counseling. Just really quickly about counseling. So check out free counseling. A lot of people cannot afford counseling. If you're unable to find free counseling, and it's getting really expensive, try to access free counseling in your community. There's a lot of free counseling, not free counseling, but most communities do offer free counseling. And if you have faced significant trauma, try looking into the Crime Victims Assistance Program and check out your extended health to see if you have any counseling or psychological services that you can access. So the next thing I talk about is reframing. So the reason why I'm actually talking about reframing, it's actually a tool that counselors use, but I want to discuss it because when you're going through all of this stuff and you're using the tools, you have to learn to reframe a situation. So it's really, you have a frame, but you're learning how to actually put your picture in it. You're learning to see things differently in that picture. So when I reframe something more realistically, like what really happened in this situation. I made a video, I probably have a lot of mistakes because this is like my first video, and I'm probably umming and eyeing and lying, and not lying, but saying like a lot. And yeah, I'm making a lot of mistakes. So, but I'm getting my point across. I'm talking to people in the most genuine way I know how to talk to people. So reframing is looking at the situation for what it really is. And people don't expect perfectionism from me. Like, I don't expect perfectionism from other people. I appreciate when they stumble. I feel more connected to them. So hopefully people feel more connected to me. So reframe a situation. Learn to look at a situation. And this really goes back to mindset. So a growth-based mindset is when you can reframe things. So look at situations more realistically and try not to catastrophize them. So again, things that you can learn on the internet, things that you can learn from counselors as well. Vulnerability and fear are some things that you're going to counter when you spend time and you use these tools. Whole bunch of fear, whole bunch of vulnerability. So I'm exercising my vulnerability here. I am being so vulnerable. I don't even go on Facebook. Like, one of my friends today said, she goes, if you ever get back on Facebook, you can see what I wrote. I said, why don't you just tell me what you wrote? So she's like, no, go on Facebook and check it out. I don't go on Facebook. I don't have a Twitter account. I don't go on MySpace. You know, and I feel really vulnerable doing this, but I'm doing it because I've reframed the situation. And I've said, okay, well, I'm getting myself out there. I'm talking about what I love, what energizes me, what I feel is important. So, and I'm giving my take on it. So vulnerability is one of the things that you're going to counter. So take that leap, be vulnerable, reframe that situation, make it more realistic. Remember, people that judge you, people that dislike you, often have to look at themselves. They often have to be non-judgmental, which they're not capable of doing, and that is not your fault. Everybody kind of has a right to get out what they need to say, and sometimes we have really, really important things to say, and people agree with us. We can create community by being vulnerable and having other people link to us. So be vulnerable, take that step, and remember, I know there's a lot of fear around vulnerability because I have that fear right now. This video is going too long again. I'm rambling again. But the fear is in my head. If somebody doesn't like what I'm saying, if they feel the video is too long, they can always switch it off. As I do more videos, as I learn more, I'll learn to shorten things up. I'll learn to fix things up for myself. But the fear is in my head. If somebody doesn't like what I'm saying, they can flip the channel, right? They can go to another video. And I highly recommend checking out Jia Jiang on TED Talk. So he's an author. He did 100 Days of Failure. So he actually did an experiment where he failed for 100 days. And the truth is, he didn't really end up failing. He was able to reframe that situation. He was able to take advantage of his vulnerability and actually grow from it. And he actually came up with the result that failure is in our head. The most somebody can say is no. The most somebody can do is flip the channel. The most somebody can do is say, I don't like that person. Hey, it's okay. That's the most you can do. So another thing is self-esteem. The reason that I write self-esteem down is because a lot of people don't realize that building self-esteem is something that requires time. It's a tool for you. All these things will help you build self-esteem, but you need to devote time to building self-esteem. So for example, I do have low self-esteem. So I looked into my self-esteem. I said, okay, why do I feel so low about myself? What is my negative self-talk telling me? I have to look at it. I have to view it. I had to look at my triggers. So it was a process for me. And I said to myself that my self-esteem is very important. My self-identity, my self-concept, my self-efficacy, my self-respect is really important to me. So I need to build those things up in order to build myself up so I'll be able to do this. So the biggest gift for myself is doing this video because I'm showing myself, I'm building that confidence loop that I'm able to do this. I'm creating momentum for myself. So look into self-esteem. I highly recommend Dr. Abraham Maslow, so Maslow's hierarchy of need. He's one of the fathers of self-esteem. There's also very good authors as well. I love Nathaniel Brandon, 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, Dr. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which also go back to habits as well. So check these people out and look at self-esteem. Motivational speakers, again, like Brendan Bouchard, Mel Robbins, Jim Quick, Mind Valley Institute, Dr. Wayne Dyer. Like, these are all people that help you look at your self-esteem. Do some research on it, do some work on it, and these things will help build your self-esteem. But if you're knowing there's a lot of impact on your self-esteem, go in to see a counselor, look at talking to somebody in your community, create accountability partners for yourself, do all the things that you need to do, because you are your most important asset. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm so sorry it's so long, but it's the shortest I can make it. So thank you so much.